everybody, and welcome to another podcast for Northern Heresy. And I'm joined, as usual, with my lovely co-host, Kyle. How are you today, my
Howdy.
friend? Good. So, we're going to be talking about the Raven Guard. Because, you know, we might as well give them some love, because no one else
One
is.
of my favorite legions, certainly.
Really?
In terms of lore, Raven Guard are the guys.
I like the lore. The lore is pretty cool. Like, they're the closest thing to like a special forces type outfit that you'll get in the Legions and Astartes, even though technically that's what all of them are. But yeah, I do like them. But they don't have much in the book, though.
No, they don't.
There's not.
I
Seems to
think
be a
it's
trend.
it's a telling thing whenever all of the loyalist Estevan legions receive this same nubbing that they all got.
Well,
And I hope that they do change it soon, and I hope that they do get extra characters and stuff to fill them out. But
yeah,
we have a few units to talk about today, but it's like some of the things that were in here for first edition are just either gone or they went to legacy.
Yeah.
Or they've added them in and they have cool rules, but why weren't they in the main book whenever they decided to launch it, right?
Yeah, I've got a feeling that their view of the three Estefan legions, loyalist ones at least, are the fact that they will introduce the Shattered Legions at some stage. And when it comes to the actual heresy itself, because the Estevan 5 happened quite early on in the conflict. So for the rest of the war, the three legions weren't really major players. I mean, the Shattered Legions did their thing, but they weren't at the forefront.
I would have disagreed with that and said that Raven Guard, even though they took all those serious losses, inflicted more casualties in the grand scheme of the Civil War than any other legion.
Did they, though?
I mean, I wouldn't put it past them.
I mean, when I say about they're not at the forefront, which is they weren't, you had other legions that were more prevalent. So, like the Dark Angels were there. Obviously, the Ultramarines and were mainly confined into Ultrama with the Shadow Crusade. The Space Wolves were running around doing their thing. The Imperial Fist was shoring up the solar system and having a big fight on Mars. And then the others were kind of doing the thing. But I think when it comes to these specific three legions, their remnants came together to form that sort of yeah.
They were scattered when they were otherwise not together as a full legion.
Yeah, I think I'm interested to see what they do with the Shattered Legions and how that works. And I do hope they do cover it. I mean, it's definitely going to be something for us to talk about at a later date.
Oh yeah, but in terms of fluff, I think that these guys are really cool. But in terms of the hobby, black is a difficult color to paint, despite what people may think, right?
No.
I know that you're saying this from a place, but from my perspective, is like anybody can paint black, but it takes a little bit of patience to make black look good.
Sort of. Sort of.
Like you can paint black all your days. You could spray them, you could airbrush them, you could do whatever you like, but then they're just matte black with nothing, no edge highlighting, no nothing, and they just look dull and crap.
I think there's a lot of cool ways of doing black very quickly and quite effectively, and it works really well. So a lot of people
It would just be like a quick, like a really light dry brush of like grey over the black, right?
No,
that would make things have a little bit of pop.
The problem with playing with colours like greys and blues and different shades of greys, when you add that onto a black surface, and if you put too much, you knock the colour and the hue of the armour into grey. So the easiest way to retain black that has absolute minimal effort and still gives you a good looking black
Yeah.
is to actually do an edge highlight with silver.
Okay.
So rather than do a full edge highlight like the heavy metal style sort of gets you to do, you do little sort of you kind of bounce your brush along the edge, so you kind of make it look like chipped and damaged.
Yeah.
And you do it really, really quickly and quite sparingly. Obviously, less is more in this case. And because
Yeah.
you've got a couple of these shiny surfaces on the edges, it'll actually make the edge look more visual and defined,
Mm.
and it's actually very,
Yeah.
very easy and quick. So I would say that
Okay.
from a painter's perspective, the Raven Guard and the Iron Hands are probably some of the quicker legions you can do. And if you're really into your grim dark, then that's kind of like the kind of way you can really go down it. You can even use a sponge if you really wanted to, and sponge it on to sort of speed that up. But yeah, it's black is people have
I think
misconceptions about black.
misconception around black being, they're just painted black, I'm done, I think is the worst thing you can do for your Legion.
Yeah,
Um,
there's a lot of cool tricks you can do with different paints, because obviously, you get different finishes with paint. So Games Workshop paints are notoriously satin, which means you get a little bit of a shine to it. It's not like a gloss finish where it's ultra shiny. And then you have other
but there's still a
companies
little
like,
bit of time in there.
yeah, there's a
Yeah.
little bit of shine. That's what the whole satin thing's about. And then you get other companies like Skill 75 who do very good paints. I wouldn't recommend them for new painters because they're not new painter friendly. They're
I presume you use a mixture of all sorts of paints whenever you're doing things, Rick. Like Vallejo and Citadel and a bunch of different other
um,
ones.
yeah. I've got most of my paints are Citadel. Because obviously it's easier to do painting tutorials with Citadel paints than it is
Yeah.
to do others, because everyone has access to Citadel paints because we're all Warhammer nerds. But
Yeah.
I do have certain paints that I'll like if I'm doing non-metallic golds and things, I'll exclusively use the bulk of it will be Vallejo paints because of the colours that Vallejo has.
Yeah.
One of the paint
That,
ranges that I'm
that's come with,
really
that,
loving at the moment, and
that's come with trial and error, right? That's
yeah,
you've experimented with them and you find what works best for you.
yeah. They have the secrets of non-metallic gold, which is Japanese uniform.
Well,
And no other paint range has Japanese uniform, and it is the perfect base color to work off for non-metallic gold because it's got a little bit of brown and a little bit of yellow into it, and it's actually perfect. The only
cool.
real color that Games Workshop have that fit with that would be Bale Brown with a little bit of XV88. So you're having to mix two paints to get that tone.
Yeah,
That
I
becomes
get
an
you, I
issue.
get you. But obviously, we're wanting to keep it easy for people painting, right?
Oh yeah. Painting, you can go as in depth and as crazy as you want, and you can go as simple as you want. And there's a lot of cool products on the market. Obviously, we've got contrast paints, we've got army paints,
And
speed paints, and the new Vallejo speed paint range. And they and you can I'm gonna hate saying this. I really don't want to say it, but you can slap chop your models if you really. I fucking hate that. Like, look, don't slap chop your models, right? Just paint properly. But for the people out there that do like slap chopping, you can slap chop or Zenithal Prime and then use glaze consistency paints, which is technically what it is.
I
But
don't
yeah,
know. I think I would like to see a video of you doing slap chop for everybody.
no, like my YouTube channel isn't monetized, so until it is, that's not happening. Um, but yeah, the hobby side of things, like black is you can do black, and I do plan on doing some painting videos on the Heresy Legions soon. Probably will be starting sometime in July with a couple of them. Obviously, the Salamanders will be coming very, very soon because I'm already working on my own Salamander army.
I can't wait. You have your first game. Is it this week or next week?
Matt's away next week, so I believe it'll be the week after. which just allows me to get everything else built. I mean, we could skip the Zone Mortalis game and just jump into a small battle on the tabletop. To be fair,
yeah.
But
Just
I'm going to be doing a very ambitious Salamander Praetor model.
I've heard about your plans for this Praetor model, and I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, it's going to be a really good YouTube video if it works.
Yeah, because not to give everything away, you're going to be combining a Primaris model with it, aren't you?
Yeah, Primaris model with the sword Praetor from the Age of Darkness box, essentially. Yeah.
Can't wait to see that.
Well, if it works, you'll all see it because it'll be on the YouTube channel. And if it doesn't work, then my Praetor model would be the guy with the axe, and he won't be getting converted and put into my World Eaters army. So yeah, that's literally how it will go. If there's a video there for a converted Salamander Praetor for the Legion, then you know the conversion worked. If it didn't and it's never there, and you're watching this going, I want to go and see this model, and it's not there at all, then you know why, because it didn't work. But yeah, it's going to be it's pretty extensive. It's
you're saying it's an ambitious build.
Very ambitious. I spent the better part of 2.5 hours yesterday scrutinizing the sprues for both kits side by side. And basically like planning it stage by stage on how what parts need cut, what parts need removed. Will I be able to salvage certain? Because essentially, I'm using the legs and the chest part from the 30k Praetor model, and then I'm basically using the sort of gut plate loincloth from the Primaris model, and then from the arms, the back with all of the scaled clape, and then the sort of chest piece, and then everything upwards from that point. So it's pretty extensive. There's a lot of cutting, there's a lot of fixing, and I'm sure there's going to be a little bit of green stuff work needed, but I'll know better once I've got both of the kits in front of me. But anyway, we're massively off topic, which is now literally just a trademark for this podcast.
We're talking about Raven Guard.
You sidetracked me. It was your fault. That talking about painting.
Anyway, so Raven Guard.
Their Legion trait, Shadow and Fury. Right, so we had a read of this earlier. So basically, you've got a special rule depending on the type of unit that is in your army. So if your models are basically infantry but are not heavy or have a jump pack of any kind and essentially not Terminators, you gain the Talons rule, which is that if you're getting shot at and the unit is outside of 8 inches, you gain a Shroud 6+, and you also gain Infiltrate. So,
which means your tax squads are going to be able to infiltrate. You'll get that mitigation save as long as they're far enough away.
And now this, and bear in mind that this is regardless of what the units are in your army. Each individual unit that fits into these 3 criterias will have that. So you'll have some of your army, like your tactical squads, will have the Talons rule. Your jump assault units and will have, say, the Falcons rule, and then your vehicles and your aircraft will have the Hawks rule. So you've basically got 3 rules across your army. So it can get quite confusing.
It's not an easy read for this league trait. It took a few reads through it.
Yeah.
To see what everything did. I'm not overly convinced by how good this.
I think the Talons part is good.
Talons is good. Falcons is a little bit redundant, and we'll get into why that is as we talk about the units.
So
Hawks isn't really ever going to come up.
Well, no.
I mean, it's nice that it's there. It's nice that it turns into a 5-up shrouded if you've already got shrouded 6-up.
Yeah.
But really, it's Talons and Falcons you're going to be looking at, right?
Yeah. So the Falcons basically covers all of your other infantry and dreadnoughts. So your jump infantry, your Terminators, your units with the heavy subtype. So sometimes you can get infantry models that are classed as heavy, but they're not in Terminator armor. So, as a good example,
Like your
Pyroclasts.
breaker.
My Pyroclasts, they're in power armor, but they're classed as heavy. So that's kind of cool. So you get kind of cool things like that. And basically, what this does is it allows you to re-roll all filled wound rolls of 1. That's not bad. That could kind of be handy. But then the rest of it is just pointless. And then in the assault phase, if they make a successful charge, even if it's considered disorganized. Now, I don't. You're only getting on the. Yeah, it's. Yeah, there's a lot of units there that are just not benefiting from that at all.
I mean, the things that are going to be Falcons are going to be your likes of your your Assault Marines and your Terminators and your Dark Furies. But the Assault Marines and the Dark Furies all have shred in their weapons, which is automatically better than the Falcons' rule.
You're re-rolling wounds anyway.
Yeah.
Your if you build your Terminators for a Raven Guard army, you're probably going to go down the Tartarus route because you want that sweep in advance. So you're going to be giving them lightning claws. So you're getting shred.
Yeah. That's why I'm not entirely convinced by this Legion trait. I think Talons is really cool for your bog standard infantry.
It kind of works for Dreadnoughts though.
Yes, it does work for the Dreadnoughts. Being able to re-roll wounds of 1, because most of the time your Dreadnoughts are going to be wounding on 2. Yeah. Really good.
But to be fair, you'd rather your Dreadnoughts had the Talons rules, so they're getting shroud rather when they're targeted from afar.
But yeah, they're locked into Falcons because of what they are, right?
Well, we can't make Dreadnoughts any more OP than they already are,
though. We've mentioned Dreadnoughts over the past couple of episodes. I would like to try and stay away from slating them as much as they are, because they are very good. They're just, as we have mentioned, just undercosted for what they do.
Yeah, I think, definitely. Especially Leviathans.
Leviathans, I would actually say, are better. I would say they're the right amount of points for what they do. It's just Contemptor are too cheap.
No, we need more Contemptors. Pure Contemptor army.
Okay. So Shadow and Fury, there's a few ups and downs. Talons I really like. Falcons I'm not too fussed on. Hawks. All right, sure.
Hawks is basically if you've got any vehicles, and they run, or they move flat out, or make a zooming move for your flyers. You essentially gain a 6-up shroud, and if you've already got shroud, it gets improved to a 5+. If you have a 5+ shroud, you can't make it any better, which is a little bit stupid. So, but let's be fair, if you're flatting out your predators, you're not shooting. So that shroud is.
I'm just going to look at the Scimitar Jet like a second while we're sitting here.
Well, it does say any model with a special rule gains, and it's basically for your cavalry and vehicle unit types.
So looking at both the combat bike and the jet bike, if they run, they get a shrouded 5-up save already.
So they can't improve on that.
So they can't improve on that because they've already got a 5-up shrouded.
Yeah.
So, okay.
So pointless.
Yeah. So it's really only flyers are ever going to benefit from this.
And maybe your tanks if you want to get them out of dodge.
Yeah. I mean, giving it to your tanks is okay, but then your tanks aren't shooting.
Can you go flat out and still assault out of a Spartan?
No.
I suppose for that one turn, you hurl
It's
across
very,
the board. It gets them to where they need with basically a shroud roll. But
it's just too situational.
yeah, it's not good.
It's not.
But
But
basically,
anyway, let's talk about something that isn't as divisive as the Shadow and Fury rule, which is their advanced reaction, Fade to Black.
I like that.
I really like it.
I like
So just to run through, so Fade to Black is the Raven Guard's advanced reaction, so once per game. It's done in the shooting. It's done in the opposing player's shooting phase. Whenever they declare a shooting attack at you, it needs to be a unit with the Raven Guard trait. Before resolving the shooting phase, you may make an immediate move equal to your initiative, your highest initiative in the unit, and they gain a Shrouded 4-up special rule, which is really good. And if the shooting attack is no longer valid due to moving out of the way, the unit that was shooting at you doesn't get to redeclare the shot, which is really strong. Really strong.
Yeah. The ability to go, oh, you're shooting at me. No, you're not, because I'm going to move behind this building or I'm going to move out of range.
Yeah, it's very Raven Guard, and the Shrouded 4-up is good.
But you get that for the rest of the turn.
Yeah.
Oh, that is solid. That is really good.
Yeah.
I like that. That's good. I like that.
Yeah. It's really simple. It's really
jealous.
effective.
I'm jealous of the simplicity.
Yeah, it's compared to the Legion rule. I mean, this is just beautiful.
I think the Legion rule could be tied up and cleaned up a lot better. Basically just give the army infiltrate if you don't have the Terminator or Heavy keyword.
No, I did touch on this ever so briefly whenever we were talking about the Salamanders. I think that much like the other Loyalist Estevan legions, Raven Guard suffer from their traits, but make up for it in what Legion units they get to take.
Yes, I still don't think Salamanders are as affected as people like to think they are when it comes to that.
But at least your Salamander's traits on all the time, right?
It is. And if I was playing you in your army that you taken the other week, then I would have been loving life with all that Volkite.
Yeah, I mean, I just to give the viewers a little bit of an insight. So I played a 2,000 point game against, what was I playing against? Dark Angels. And Dark Angels decided to take one of their wings, which gave them like a pseudo salamander rule, which was quite annoying because I took a lot of Volkite in that army.
Yeah, their Dread Wing.
I think it was the Fire Wing.
Was it? I don't know. I remember him saying something about Dread.
There's one which practically gives you the same sort of strength minus versus Volkite and flame weapons and stuff.
Yeah.
As the Salamanders get. So it was interesting. It was interesting. Yeah, I mean, having all of my Volkite going from strength 6 to strength 5 it hurt. It hurt. So we're happy with the advanced reaction. I'm certainly not as fussed with their trait, but then
I think the trait could be simplified so much easier.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that could be done to it.
Just give them infiltrate as standard across the board, and just caveat that saying that if you're in Terminator armor or have a jump pack, you can't have infiltrate or a vehicle. That's it.
Yeah.
And just give them a 6-up shroud across the board.
Yeah.
Regardless of what they are.
I'm just confused by it because obviously Space Wolves have something very similar in which if they're a certain type of unit, they get X rule, whereas if they don't, they get Y, and if not, they get Z.
Yeah,
And
but
they made it so much more complicated in the wording for the Raven Guard one
yeah,
that I don't really understand why.
I don't think it needed to be done. I think they've tried to. Well, we'll get to the Alpha Legion at some stage, but I've got a feeling that it's
Yeah.
probably more down to the Alpha Legion.
So
Um,
right. So it is common knowledge at this point that we're not 100% on the trait. The Warlord traits, however, they have three: one loyalist, one traitor, and one generic, or one that doesn't care if you are a loyalist or a traitor.
that's also very interesting.
Yeah, yeah, it is.
There's not many like that.
So there's not, and it's only a few of the loyalist legions that get these traitor only traits, and I think it's cool. So I'll start with a loyalist one. So your warlord, so Bane of Tyrants is the loyalist only trait. Its warlord increases attack and strength characteristics by 1 when engaged in a challenge, and by 2 when engaged in a challenge with the enemy warlord. In addition, you get to make an additional reaction in the assault phase.
Hmm. It's not bad.
It's simple. It's to the point. Gaining all that extra strength and attacks in an enemy challenge with the warlord, amazing.
Yeah, but
You're turning him into a challenge missile though.
yeah, but you're not really going to have that fight's not really going to happen unless it's the enemy's got a really powerful warlord, like a named character.
Yeah, I think it's okay. It's nice for a few wee stat bonuses, but it's not doing anything for your army, really, right?
Not really.
The second one, however, I think is your gold.
Hmm.
So the hidden hand. This can be taken by loyalist or traitor for Raven Guard. While the warlord with this trait is in reserves, you may choose to reroll all failed reserve rolls. And when deployed into the battlefield, all models in the unit that he has joined gain Fleet 2. You get a reaction in the movement phase. I really like it. It's one of those few ways that you can actually manipulate reserves, and the fact that it works off the table is really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a solid choice, and you're going to be with Raven Guard and their sort of style of play with like the jump packs and everything. You're going to want to try and do that deep strike assault, right?
Definitely, especially when you look at the rights of war.
Yeah, yeah. And then, so it's another really, really simple one. I really like it. That's that reroll all failed reserve rolls.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect for what they want to do. And then the last one. So we've got no gods or masters. This is the traitor only one. I think the fluff of this is it's after the Estevan massacre. It's just some Raven Guard that decided to seek out their own stuff. Like they decided not to go back to help Korax or rebuild the Legion. They just decided, nah, we're not following your rules.
So basically, Raven Guard Black Shields.
Yeah, I mean it's like proto Caradons or what are they called? The Ashen Claws. Those those sorts of
the fluff for those legions is quite interesting because apparently they were expelled or exiled during the Great Crusade.
Yeah, yeah.
So but why were they not killed?
Because Korax is just a good dude.
Seems to be an ultimate problem for the Imperium.
So this trait gives you, so obviously once again can only be taken whenever you're deciding to go traitor Raven Guard. When in base contact with any enemy infantry or cavalry whose weapon skill, strength, or initiative is higher than this warlord, the warlord with this trait increases their weapon skill, strength, and or initiative to match those of the enemy's highest characteristic.
That's interesting.
You may take a single reaction without spending. Okay, so they have a different thing for their reaction. In addition, army whose warlord has this trait may once per battle make a single reaction without spending a point of the controlling player's reaction allotment, as long as the reaction is made by the warlord or a unit that he has joined. So you get to choose any of the phases and get to make a free reaction with his unit.
Yeah.
Which is, it's nice. I actually think it's really cool. The like matching your weapon skill, strength, or initiative to match the enemy, it could be handy.
Yeah.
Especially if you're going after like a really hard hitting unit or, you know, the enemy warlord, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not the hidden hand. It's
No.
gonna be it's gonna be taken whenever you're wanting to take that traitor force and you're building to a theme. Right?
I think if you're going to do the rights of war, which we're about to talk about, you're going to take the hidden hand for this.
Yeah, the hidden hand certainly it shouts out that is the best warlord trait of the three.
Yeah.
Not that the other two are bad, it's just the hidden hand is better.
Yeah. So the rights of war, you've got decapitation strike, which I really like. So all models with this Legion Astartes rule in the detachment using this right of war have preferred enemy independent characters. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
And then also all models in this unit from this detachment using the right of war, and this is where I think the Legion trait doesn't really work. Assigned to the deepest strike assault or flank assault, gain Shroud 5+. And the special rule for the duration of the turn in which they deployed on the battlefield. Now, when we're going back into how to fix the Legion trait, is just give them Shroud 6+. This basically gives you a 5+ for the turn that you arrive. That still works, and it wouldn't be obnoxious to play against.
No.
And it kind of it's yeah, but again,
because I mean it's you're getting shrouded or you're getting a feel no pain because they're both mitigation saves.
Basically, yeah.
The fact that the shrouded is 5 up, which means that it's better than what your Legion trait gets, means that you don't need to care about your Legion trait.
Yeah.
I mean, so coming down with a shrouded means that you're more likely to survive interceptor fire, and you're likely going to get more guys through the Overwatch.
Yeah.
Because, yeah. But then once you're in that combat, you don't care about your shrouded. So, yeah, it's all good.
So in missions with that uses victory points. An army that includes a detachment using this right of war gains an additional 2 victory points for slaying the warlord of secondary objective, which is really kind of cool. And you could tie this into the Bane's Tyrant loyalist trait because you're getting the buffs. You could
tie it into the traitor trait as well, so you're able to gain those 3 points from slaying the warlord.
But I think because of the rerolls on the reserve, hidden hand is the one to choose. Now it does this is what I like about this as well is there isn't many limitations. So basically, you can only take 1 heavy support choice. Now,
which is normally that's a big hit for armies, but I think Raven Guard with their playstyle, not that bad.
Yeah, you're gonna be relying on things like dreadnoughts for your mobile fire support. You're not going to be bringing tanks. Whoop-de-doo.
You'll likely for a heavy support, a Leviathan dreadnought and a drop pod would be pretty good.
Your assault marines are going to be coming in on deep strike. Your Terminators are probably going to be coming in deep strike as well. You've got your tactical squads can infiltrate, so they're already going to be on the table. So you've got a really quite a nice thematic army, and so not having the tanks isn't an issue.
You're able to cover a lot of ground even before the game starts with the Raven Guard, so that you can have it's all about that whole idea that they've already been there and they're just waiting for you to turn up, right?
And obviously you can't take fortifications,
which is fine.
So the Liberation Force is a little bit bigger and there's a little bit more to it. So straight away, once per battle at the start of any game turn, The controlling player may choose to have all models with the Legion Astartes Raven Guard special rule in a detachment using this rite of war gain the stubborn rule for the duration of that game turn. So once per game stubborn for a turn, that's cool. I can imagine that would be quite helpful if you're going to do a mass assault and you're going to have a lot of units in combat and there's going to be a lot of leadership checks needed with modifiers. You're going to just ignore those modifiers, which is kind of nice.
Yeah, I mean, stubborn, I think, is really downplayed so far in this edition. Certainly, the way that I would talk about it is that stubborn is one of the best things you can have for your army, because unlike 40k, and unlike the way that 40k was, 30k, the 30k legions take leadership a lot.
They do. And there
they don't know fear.
Yes, and they do run away.
And they do run away.
And they do get run down.
And they love being pinned, and they can be swept. It is a spree of death whenever it comes to a 30k game.
I think for 40k players coming into the Horus Heresy for the first time, and especially if they're Space Marine players in 40k, that is one of the biggest culture shocks they get when they actually play. And I remember, especially in first edition as well, this was definitely the case. Like, we were having combats and guys were like getting beat and running away, and then they were getting chased down and killed, and you're like, but I'm a Space Marine, and they're like, yeah, in this game you know fear.
Yeah, this is before the Codex Astartes was built. This
is before they filled your head full of shit and psycho-indoctrinated you. There was a little bit of free thinking going on. The Imperium doesn't like that anymore in their mindless genetic super soldiers. So yeah, this is why you run away. But yeah, it's really quite funny looking at new Heresy players when that happens, especially if they've come from 40k. And we really will touch on the 40k players in a podcast soon about, you know, the misconceptions, let's just say, of the 40k community coming into the Horus Heresy, because it's definitely a subject worth talking about, and I don't think it's as bad as the internet makes it out to be. So back on track. The next thing is all models from the Allied detachment, that this is part of an army whose primary detachment uses this rite of war, also gains stubborn, which is nice.
They get stubborn all game long.
Yeah, but it's allies. So what kind of allies would you bring in this detachment? But I would imagine that would definitely sort of look down to the limitations, I would imagine.
Yeah, you may find that they're in there that are limited.
So all models in this unit comprise entirely of models with Legions Astartes, Raven Guard. Gain hatred everything. They hate everyone because they're emos. While at least one model from that unit is within 6 inches of any model from an allied detachment in the same army. So you basically...
They fight harder whenever they're beside their little human people.
Yes, they just hate everything in front of them. Now, they do have...
They're trying to kill their wards. That's what you got to think about. They're the heroes.
They just want to be salamanders. There are quite a lot of limitations. So obviously, this detachment can't include any models with the slow, heavy. That's a big one. Artillery, bombard, or automated artillery subtypes.
So that'll affect both your Raven Guard and the allies you want to bring.
Yes.
So it's quite a heavy limitation.
So because of the heavy, I would say that you can't bring Terminators in this detachment.
You can bring Tartaros, but you can't bring Cataphracti or the Indominus.
So a detachment used in this rite of war must have the Loyalist allegiance. So you've basically got the Bane of Tyrants or the Hidden Hand is your best two choices. This rite of war may only be selected as a primary detachment, but you can bring allies with it, obviously. And an army whose primary detachment is using this rite of war must include an allied detachment that is selected from the Solar Auxiliary or Imperial Militia army lists with at least 4 units. I would go for the Militia because you can
I
buy
would
plastic Imperial Guard, and the new plastic Imperial Guard rock.
So the first time that I looked at this was before we had Solar Ox or Imperialis Militia PDF,
Yes.
and this is a transfer from first edition because they had the Liberation Force there as well,
Hmm.
but they changed it in a few minor ways. Just for I'd never seen anybody taking a Liberation Force.
Hmm.
I think I played against it once in second edition, just because we have a Raven Guard player and he had some tanks. But it's the Imperialis Militia. I think is better than the Solar Ox for an ally like this because 1,000 points of Imperialis Militia is just really cool, and you can really set the theme to what you want with it. Whereas the Solar Ox, I think, has more restrictions and is a little bit more clunky in how it operates.
Yeah, I think I'd like to do an episode soon on the Imperial Militia.
Oh,
Now that we've got
perfect.
the new Raven Guard miniatures, Raven Guard, the new Imperial Guard miniatures, to sort of go through the document and explain what units are and which model kits to use for these, because you've got to remember that this was written in first edition and kind of updated for second, and it was updated before the Imperial Guard got its update at the end of ninth edition. So there are a few things that don't match, and there are a few things that we have that don't have rules. So one primary example, and I know a lot
I
of people
think
are going to
we're
want it, is the Rugel Dawn tank. So there's, but we'll go through that in a lot more detail in that podcast.
yeah, yeah.
This
So that is the end of the rights of war. What are you thinking, Rick? Because I lean decapitation strike.
I for my playstyle is I like to be quite aggressive.
Yeah.
So I would go for the decapitation strike. I would have a very drop pod assault marine heavy force. My
Yeah.
one heavy support, I wouldn't bring tanks. I'd bring a flyer.
Oh, so you'd bring like a fire raptor?
Yeah, mobile fire support.
Okay.
Yeah, fire raptor.
Sure.
I would bring that. Definitely jump packs, as many jump packs as across the board, drop pods, with a couple of tactical squads infiltrating in
Perfect idea.
to
Just to
sort of yeah
hold backline objectives and
yeah
stuff.
yeah
Yeah,
to
perfect.
take them. And I would maybe look at maybe not necessarily the deep strike assault entirely, but maybe sort of split the force down between two. So you've got
Hmm.
your heavy hitters coming down in the deep strike assault, and then maybe sort of a more fast mobile flank assault force. Kind of sort of really lean into that Raven Guard skullduggery type gameplay that they do like to lean into. I would go for the hidden
Yeah.
hand purely because of the reserve rules.
Yeah.
And
It's the sort of right of war that kind of builds itself.
I like it also because you can bring Korax in this in the Rights of War, which is
Yeah,
nice
yeah.
because obviously as a Salamander player, they've got that Rights of War that I really would like to use, but I can't because it won't let me bring Vulcan. So it kind of instantly puts me off. But there is no limitations on the Primarch on these, on either of one as well.
Yeah.
But I think
Yeah.
the Decapitation Strike leans very much into what the Raven Guard are good at doing.
I think hitting on that one of your rights of war for the salamanders can't include Vulcan. That's based on the time frame for like how that army was operating because Vulcan was kidnapped or dead again or something like that, right?
Yeah, but look, uh,
I know.
I
I'm
get,
talking about from a
yeah,
fluff
yeah,
perspective.
it's. I like the fluff, and I'm more of a lore player, but leave things like that for campaign books,
Yeah.
not as Legion rules.
So yeah, decapitation strike head in hand. That's the way that I would lean as well. I would that one heavy support. I'm actually more leaning toward like a Leviathan dreadnought and a drop pod.
A Leviathan's heavy support of the elites.
A Leviathan or heavy?
Hmm. It's only one though. Unless you
It
bring a
is only
talent.
one, but have you ever seen the look of people's faces whenever you drop a Leviathan beside them?
Yeah, but heavy support choice. It just says a heavy support choice.
Yeah.
So,
You could take a tank, you could take a flyer, you can take a heavy support squad if you wanted.
but Leviathans come
Um,
in squadrons, talons.
yes, so if you take one, you can give it a drop pod. If you take it as more than one, then you can't. And they would need to walk across the table.
Or come in on flank attack, on flank assault.
Yeah, you could do that.
That's potential. So you at least are going to be able to get 3 big walkers with 3 big guns.
I mean, having them just stomp across the battlefield is a pretty terrifying thing to begin with. So yeah,
It's potential. Now, I'm going to giggle at the armory because they have something that apparently Space Marines should have as standard.
you talking about the infravisors?
Yeah, the night vision.
Yeah. So let's start off with that since we're talking about it already.
Oh, why does this not standard for all Space Marines? Right. So basically, it's night vision. So for 10 points, any model with a Raven Guard special rule, and that's a character subtype, can be given an infovisor, which grants night vision special rule for a bonus +1 ballistic skill characteristic. However, the model and the unit they have joined counts as having an initiative of 1 when taking blind tests, which is basically what night vision is. I don't.
Yeah. It's going to be put on all of your sergeants to give your squads night vision.
Yeah, you basically turn your Raven Guard into Devgru. So yeah,
I mean, these the way that this the armory sort of speaks to me is it's a little bit like Night Lords, but it's not Night Lords.
yeah.
You're going to be able to ignore an awful lot of like the nighttime stuff that happens in games of 30k these days, which is
Well,
really good.
if you're fighting against Night Lords, you're in the dark for most of the game, so you're going to be -1 to hit, unless you've
Yeah,
got
I
a
mean,
searchlight on all your tanks and stuff. So to
I think
have,
that of the legions that can deal with the night the best, the Raven Guard are up there,
yeah,
and certainly are well equipped to deal with the likes of Night Lords or anybody else who's trying to do some nighttime shenanigan.
hmm,
But I mean, 10 points for night vision. The +1 ballistic skill sells it a little bit better for me, but I mean, you're getting your sergeant to BS5, the rest of your guys are BS4, but you're getting that night vision, and that's important.
yeah.
Yeah,
I don't.
it's a pretty no brainer 10 points for each guy, just so that you can ignore night fight.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's funny when it comes to night vision or night fighting that it's not a thing that you roll for. The players decide if it is, unless it's the Night Lords. Like they always turn it on, but like you
And
decide if you're gonna have it. So if you're a Raven Guard player and you know you've got night vision, you're going to want it to be dark because your opponent is going to have a hard time shooting, but you're getting these modifiers to shoot. It's not amazing compared to likes of the Night Lords, but it's still an advantage, which is
yeah,
quite funny. Then we've got the Raven's Talons because lightning claws. This legion loves them.
yeah, they
So
really do.
you can pretty much any Raven Guard, any model with the Raven Guard rule can upgrade that weapon to a Talon. Oh, so basically, if you can take a Lightning Claw, you can upgrade it to a Talon for 5 points per weapon. When a model has 2 Raven Talons, that unit gains +2 attacks instead of the usual 1. So that's kind of nice. It
Yep.
is Strength User, but it is AP3, and it has Melee, Shred, Rending 5+ Specialist Weapon.
So this over a standard lightning claw is standard lightning claws are rending 6 up.
Mm-hmm.
So you're rending a little bit better. you're getting the same amount. It's all about the rend, really. Being able to fish on 5s instead of 6s is massive, especially with weapons that have shred.
Mm-hmm.
So the things that are going to have these Raven Talons are going to be re-rolling their wounds anyway. So if you take if you're looking back at your Shadow and Fury rule, Falcons is null and void because you're re-rolling all your wounds instead of once.
Mm-hmm.
But rending on 5s is amazing.
Yeah.
It's well worth the points for the upgrade.
So
They're a solid close combat weapon. They're scary to fight against because of the amount of attacks that they're going to be throwing at you.
yeah, well, you'll see that when you see the Furies.
Yeah. So that I love the Raven's Talons. I think it's a great piece of war gear. You can pretty much have it throughout the entire army. So that means you're able to throw a pair of Raven Talons on every sergeant that you have. You can throw them on your special characters. You can throw them on your Terminators. Just everybody can be kitted out with them. And they're pretty good. Pretty good. They can also have... it was... How am I saying this? Am I going to butcher it?
Chameleon.
Chameleon?
Yeah, something like that. Basically, you get a fancy coat.
Yeah, so Praetors and Centurions with the Raven Guard rule may be given Cameline for 20 points each. They get Shrouded 6 up or improve a existing version of Shrouded by 1. It's not limited as to how far you take that. It's just a +1 to whatever Shrouded you would have.
Mm-hmm.
Models with the Mortificator or Previan consoles may not have Cameo Line. Okay. So yeah, it's not it's not as mandatory on characters as I think the likes of the Salamander's Cloak.
Yeah.
I say mandatory. It's not that these are mandatory at all. It's that you'll see upgrades on like your Praetors. Some do more work than others.
The problem with this is
20 points.
Yeah.
That's the biggest problem.
Yeah. Now, just on a caveat, this model can improve its Shrouded rule.
Yeah.
So the only time that it stipulates that you can't improve the Shrouded rule for the Legion trait is for things with the Hawk rule. So even if you've got Talons, so you're an infantry model, and you look at the other sources of Shroud that you're getting from likes of your Legion trait, so likes of Decapitation Strike, for that turn that you arrive, you've got a 5+. If you've got one of these, you're now getting a 4+. So there is. I mean, it's not bad, but again, like, is your Warlord going to be getting shot at on that turn?
I mean, I would look at this more like so the Vigilator, the Centurion Council upgrade to pretty much make a sniper guy or a recon guy who's just a little bit better. This on him is a pretty good justification.
Yeah.
Because he's going to be with he's either going to be with a unit of recon guys who are already getting that shrouded because of their shroud bombs and things, or you're going to deploy him like an assassin and you're going to keep him separate so that he's small, he's really hard to pin down. You get real good use out of that reaction if people try to shoot at him. Yeah, it's like situationally is very good.
Mm-hmm.
But 20 points is a bit steep.
Yeah.
Now, the last thing that they get in their armory is they get their own jump packs.
They do.
They get the Corvid pattern jump pack, which is Raven Guard only.
Yep.
Any model. So if you want to upgrade people with the Corvid jump pack, they need to be an independent character, and they need to have the infantry type. So you can't give it to the likes of your jet bikes or whatever else. It's like stop trying to double them. You may exchange your Warhawk pack for a Corvid pack for 10 points. So that's pretty good. what you get over a standard jump pack is you get 2 inches of extra movement compared to the regular jump pack. So you go 14 instead of 12. In addition, you ignore all terrain, much the same as a regular jump pack. But whenever you do dangerous terrain tests, you get a 4-up invuln.
Yep.
Which is not bad. Not bad at all. Reading through still. When making a run move, the characteristics. Your class is bulky 3. You've got Hammer of Wrath 1. You get the Deep Strike rule. If it's already bulky 3, it gains bulky 4 instead.
Basically, if you've taken a Praetor and you want to put him in a unit of Dark Furies, you need to take 10 points, so he kind of gets to jump around with them.
Yeah, but
basically, that's
those jump packs being better than the standard jump packs. Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah,
pretty good. It makes you a lot speedier, especially if you do a decapitation strike. You're going to be getting that fleet 2 whenever you drop, which means, well, these guys benefit from that movement whenever they're jumping across the table. So maybe an outflank assault would work better for them.
Mm-hmm.
But it means that you're covering a lot more ground than a regular jump infantry, which is nice. Which is nice. And the 4-up invuln against dangerous terrain tests is pretty solid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not bad.
That's the end of,
it's a good feed rule for basically an additional 2 movement.
Yeah, it's unlike the Camel line, the jump pack I think is a solid choice for anybody that you want the jump pack on.
Yeah.
There'd be no reason not to take it. But yeah, it's pretty good.
So,
I like it.
Mr. Corax.
Corax, yes. I love the model. Just before we get into like the stats and what he does, I think the model is really cool. Back whenever we were waiting for this Primarch to get released, there was a few issues with like his wing blades and stuff, and like they had to go back to the drawing board a few times. But it came out as a really cool model. I really like it. What do you call them? Is special pistol, whatever it's called. Wrath and Justice is two is super pistols. They're really cool. There's nothing not to like about them. I think it's a shame that they took out in first edition there was a campaign variant of Corax that you could take, where you could swap out those pistols for like a heavy bolt that carried around.
Yeah.
It was like Rambo Corax fighting off against the world. I thought that was really cool, and I get an awful lot of people don't want to be doing like conversion work to their Primarch models, and I get that, but it's a shame that they lost it, but still, he's a cool model. So he's again Primarch, so he's pretty good. He's 440 points. So he's 440 points. He has movement 8, like every other Primarch, but he also has a jump pack, so ignore the movement stat. He's weapon skill 7, which puts him on the higher end. BS strength, toughness, and wounds are 6. Initiative 7, so he's a speedy boy. He's got 7 attacks base, and he's got a 2-up save, like all the rest of them. I don't think there's any Primarch with a 3-up save.
No, they've all got 2s.
Yeah. So he comes with his the Sable armor, the Panoply of the Ravenlord, the Corvidine Pinions, Wrath and Justice, and some frag grenades. He's a Master of the Legion. He has Hit and Run, Deep Strike, the Shadowed Lord, and he is a Loyalist. So because he's a Primarch, he automatically becomes your Warlord in the game. And his warlord trait is all models with the Raven Guard trait, either infantry or cavalry in the same army, gain Scout and Crusader. And you may make an additional reaction in the movement phase as long as he hasn't been removed. So gaining Scout on an army that's already doing an awful lot of infiltrate and stuff, you can move a lot of things up. There's a lot of speed in there. Crusader. Crusader is one of those rules that always sort of skips me by as to what it does.
Yeah, I always get it mixed up with Zealot.
Let's see. Crusader. 236 in the main. Crusader. A unit that contains at least one model with this rule rolls an extra dice when making sweeping advances and discards the lowest before determining the result. That's pretty good. I like that. I mean, I love sweeping. It speaks to my playstyle. Whenever Korax is there, being able to roll 2 dice and pick the highest, I mean, you're just going to win.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's him. So his armor gives him a 2-up save, 4-up invulnerable, and gives him shrouded 4-up. So shooting against him, he has a 50-50 chance of not losing that wound at all. Which is pretty strong. Pretty strong. The Shadowed Lord, if he chooses to use hit and run, you roll an additional dice when determining the distance and discard any 1 dice before determining the final result. Okay.
That's quite good.
In addition, controlling player may reroll all failed shrouded runs of 1 made by Korax and all models in the unit he has joined after using the hit and run rule.
That's very good.
Yeah, I like it. I like it. But it's very weird because after hit and run, you get to reroll shroudeds of 1. But still, cool. He's got his combat weapons. He's got his combat weapons.
Does he?
I'm just reading through.
Does he give a unit that he's with hit and run?
So it just requires 1 model with the hit and run, so that all of the unit get it.
Yeah.
So
nice. So sticking him in with 10 Dark Fury, that's kind of scary.
Pretty much, yeah. That is pretty scary. So we get onto his weaponry. So the panoply of the Raven Lord. So strength user, so strength 6, AP2, melee shred, blind, fighting style, and 2-handed. Fighting style is at the beginning of each assault phase. Korax's controller may choose one of the following special rules to apply to his attacks, based upon the weapons and fighting style he is employing. So you can either give him Murder Strike 4-up, which means that you're doing instant death on 4, Rage 4, or Sudden Strike 3.
Oh my god.
So, yeah, he's pretty flexible.
Yeah.
Pretty flexible indeed. Because I think Sudden Strike is on the turn you charge your higher initiative, right?
I think so, yeah. I think
Rage 4 is you're getting 4 attacks on the charge instead of +1, and then instant deathing on 4. I mean, all 3 are really solid.
Well, attacks-wise, it's mean on the charge, he's coming in with 11 attacks.
Yeah.
If you're fighting against Emperor's Children, Sudden Strike is really good because you're now initiative 10. Which means that if he charges Fulgrim, you're hitting Fulgrim before he's even hitting you, because I think he'll be up to about initiative 9 because of the Legion rules.
Just before we make presumptions, I'm going to look up.
I think that's how that works.
Where on earth is that living? Huh. It's not in the index of the back. This is the first time that I've gone here and gone, oh, you're not here. Okay, 248 is where most special rules live, so let's just go there. We'll figure.
Flicking through mine as well to see if I can find it.
Not here. Not here either.
Is it,
Where on earth?
Is it in the Loyalist book?
Might be.
No, it can't be in the Loyalist book.
This is where we'll find it in the Loyalist.
Yeah.
Sudden Strike is in the Loyalist. So Sudden Strike is you charge, you get initiative characteristics. So yeah, you're pushing yourself up. You're pushing yourself up to initiative 10 whenever you charge.
Which means you're gonna, if you charge Fulgrim, you're hitting him first. That's solid.
And this is at the beginning of each assault phase. He doesn't need to charge.
Yeah. Wow, that's really big. But then it goes down to, do you need the extra initiative for him, or do you want the murderous strike against him?
But Sudden Strike will only work whenever he charges.
Yeah.
So.
I don't know. I think depending on who I'm fighting, if I was charging and it was anything but Emperor's Children, I'd go for Rage. Especially if it's into a unit, because, you know, Corax is going to be pumping out 11 attacks.
I think it depends on the unit that he's charging. If it's multi-wound, I think Murderous Strike has a better shot.
Yeah.
If it's single guys, Rage is definitely good.
Yeah.
But if you're going up against guys with like 2-3 wounds, so like some Galvorback or any veteran unit at all, Murderous Strike is probably the better one, because then he can wipe each model off the board. As opposed to just chipping away at the wounds. If you get what I mean.
Yeah, I think the Sudden Strike only really comes in if you're fighting the Emperor's Children, or you're going to be fighting another Primarch.
Yeah. But all three we can see that all three have a use.
Oh, definitely. Now, I think on the charge, I still would probably go on the charge, go take the Rage, and then after that take Murderous Strikes, because then you just guarantee killing things.
Yeah, because Corax is at the higher echelons of initiative already.
Yeah.
Most things, I think it's Russ is on the same initiative level as him, but Fulgrim is better at speed.
I think Fulgrim is initiative 8 as a base, but the Legion trait will push him up to 9.
Yeah, he's a speed.
Yeah.
So I like that. His melee weapon is really cool. I presume his melee weapon is actually his wings or something.
No, they're like retractable claws.
Oh, okay, right.
If you look at his model on the next page or so, he has one of them out, and they're like retractable claws.
Oh, okay, cool. So then he has his pistols, Wrath and Justice. They're treated as two separate weapons, both counting as auto and Volkite weapons for the purposes. So they're range 12, strength 6, AP 4. They're one shot each, rending 3 up, deflagrate, and mastercrafted. That's pretty good. Rending on 3s, that's going to happen a lot.
Yeah.
But, I think you can make better use out of his pistols than an awful lot of other Legion Primarchs.
Yeah, there seems to be like a running thing where most of them have got a pistol and not many of them actually use it because it's a bit waz. Like, Vulcan's is pretty good. Korak's got a pretty decent one. Russ has one, but I don't think he actually knows he's on his leg.
It's just
yeah, it's just like he thinks it's just his treat bag. And, Rogel Dawn has one, but again, he's barely ever going to use it. Gilliman would potentially use his because it's not a bad gun. But
Yeah.
all in all, yeah, they're not. Most of the Primarchs are.
Doesn't Ferrus Manus have like a grav pistol or something?
I think he does. We're going to be doing the Iron
We'll
Hands.
get to the Iron Hands whenever we get to the Iron
Yeah,
Hands, right?
but I think he does. Yeah.
Yeah, so to finish off Korax, he has his Corvidine pinions, which is really important because these set his movement value to 14, just like his Corvidine jump pack brethren. Yeah, it's pretty much. He automatically passes dangerous terrain tests compared to everybody else.
Yeah,
which is really good. Yeah, it's a jump pack. It's a Primarch size jump pack with a movement characteristic of 14. That is what it is, which is really good because that means he can run around with his Dark Furies. Because he is with a jump pack, you're unlikely to see him with like a unit of Terminators. You'll have him with like Assault Marines or Dark Furies, as we've mentioned. And yeah, I mean, just giving a close combat unit Crusader and just having that much AP to high initiative attacks, he's going to do a lot of work.
he really is.
He really is, and he's on the cheaper side for a Primarch as well.
Yeah. So
I really like him.
I've always got a soft spot for Korax. When I was looking at my Legion, I did sort of entertain the idea of doing Raven Guard, but because obviously we have a Raven Guard player, I chose not to.
Yeah.
Give the Sally some love. So their first of their elite choices. Well, they only have one, and then they have a fast attack. So they've got the more Dythian squad. If I butchered that, leave a comment laughing at me. They're 150 points for 5. They're infantry with skirmish. And they also have the shade, or the sergeant is a shade, I think. I presume, yes.
Your leader model and the rest of your.
They're in power armor, they've got bull pistols, they've got chainswords, they've got Astartes shotguns, fragging crack grenades, and shroud bombs. And they have the Relentless Rule, Scout, and Fatal Strike. Transports wise, what's that?
So these guys, I just looked at their stats. They're BS5 Marines, so they're
Seeker Marines.
Seekers, yeah. But also recon.
Yeah, and they move 7 inches.
Yeah, well, that's pretty standard for Marines.
So
yeah, they're veteran Seekers.
Yeah, 2 wounds each
with recon stats.
Yeah,
or with recon. Yep.
So transport wise, they've got the Scout rule. So transport, they can take a Rhino or a Storm Eagle gunship as a dedicated transport, which is kind of cool. And as a dedicated transport, this does not take up an additional slot on the Force Organization chart, which for the Storm Eagle, that's really nice.
Yeah. But I mean, fast attack slots I don't think are ever really used to that much degree. No. I think Raven Guard you'd probably see a lot more fast attacks than other legions, just because of what we have.
Yeah.
Especially whenever we get onto the next unit.
Definitely. So basically, there are 25 points a model. You can have up an additional 5. Any model in the unit can exchange their chainsword for a power weapon or a Carnarble blade for 10 points. They can exchange their combat shotguns or their Astartes shotguns for a Nemesis bolter, a Magna combi weapon, or a minor combi weapon.
I mean, the Nemesis bolters are probably the best on them.
Yeah.
However, also Magna combi weapons. It's like you want these guys because we're going through their gear at the minute. Fatal Strike has yet to come up yet, so I think we'll go through the rest of it before we talk about weapon options.
So for every 3 models in a unit, 1 model can exchange its shotgun for a Volkite charger, flame and melter, plasma pistol, or a missile launcher with frag and crack missiles, which is kind of
And
cool.
that's really cool because that
Yeah.
means in a 10-man unit, you got 3 heavy weapons.
Mm. They're yeah. They again. These guys kind of sort of remind me of that, like, special forces assault team. They've kind of got something for everything, and then when
Mm-hmm.
you throw in the night vision on the sergeant as well, you kind of get that sort of spec ops type feel with the Legion, which is kind
And
of cool.
that more Dathan Shade's going to be pushing himself to BS6
Yeah,
with the improviser.
yeah. So the Shade can take melter bombs, and he can also have artifice armor. So they have
Mm-hmm.
a special rule called Fatal Strike. So it's a once per battle. A unit that includes any models with this special rule may declare a Fatal Strike. So at the start of any of the controlling player's shooting phases, for the duration of that phase, the shooting attacks of all models in that unit with the Fatal Strike special rule gain rending 4+. In addition to any other effects that their weapons may have. This does not replace or improve any other version of Rending X special rule already possessed by the unit and may not be used when attacking with weapons that either have template or blast. So it's going to dictate what weapons, but again, the Nemesis bolters are definitely good for this.
The
And
Nemesis
and
bolters,
the combo weapons are really good.
so the Nemesis bolters are, but they don't interact with the Fatal Strike because they've already got rending.
Yeah. I would like to see 3 melter guns in a squad that are doing melter shit and rending,
Yeah, yeah.
because that would be funny. Rending
Um,
crack missiles.
yeah, I mean that's entirely doable. I think, and this is going to be a running theme whenever we talk about units. I honestly think that melted bombs on a single guy in the squad is a mistake
Um,
that people fall into, and I don't think it's worth it.
no, because if you've got access to things like power weapons or power fists, then generally take one of them, the better. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm surprised that they don't. But they have shroud bombs, but I don't know what they are. So
So stride bombs are an interesting little bit of gear. So let me just grab them here. That's special rules. Where the war gear? Okay. So why are you not in the Marine book? Oh,
it's probably the same reason why the other special rule isn't in the main book, but is in this book.
but it's such a weird thing because stride bombs is a bit of war gear.
Yeah.
I'm probably just blind. I think it just means that you treat yourself as further away whenever they shoot you.
Right.
We
Well,
can obviously we can if I find that I'm wrong, I'll apologize and say in the next episode. But I'm pretty sure that that is what shroud bombs do.
we can flick through and
Yeah,
with the magic of editing, we'll fix it.
yeah,
So the next unit is Dark Furies. They're a fast attack, so they're 150 points for 5. They're infantry, and that's it. So they have power armor for the Dark Furies only, and then the Sergeant comes with artifice armor straight away. That's
yeah,
really cool. They
yeah.
have 2 Raven's Talons, so they're dual wielding those new special lightning claws that the Legion gets, which means they get the 2 additional attacks rather than the 1.
Mm-hmm.
They've got
Yep,
frag and crack grenades. No idea how they use that when you actually see the models. And they have the Corvidine pattern jump packs, which are the really fancy jump packs. They've
yep. So
got,
they're going to be movement 14 Marines.
yes, they have deep strike as standard.
Yep.
So really, that decapitation strike rite of war is loving these guys.
Yep, it is.
Precision strikes 6+, and sudden strike 1.
So on the charge, they're going to be initiative 5. 6s means that you're going to be able to target the guys in close combat that you want to target.
Yeah.
The fact that they deep strike innately is really good. Means it's going to fall into that decapitation strike. You could take them with Korak if you wanted to, and you'll get a lot of use out of a deep strike assault with a Raven Guard army.
Yeah.
For sure.
And the unit champion or the unit leader is weapon skill 5. Compared to the others. And obviously they're veterans as well, so they've got 2 wounds. And they've basically got two attacks each. 3 attacks for the sergeant. So they're a solid unit. 25 points a model out for an additional 5 guys. And then the Dark Fury squad, that includes 9 Dark Furies, and we include up to 2 of those models as chosen of the slain for 15 points. So you can essentially have 3 chosen of the slain in the unit.
Yeah. So you can have a 10-man unit with 3 sergeants.
Basically, yeah. That's kind of nuts. And then the chosen of the slain guys may take melter bombs.
Slightly more worth it.
A little bit, but I don't think you're
points for 3.
Yeah,
that's all.
You're not going to target armor with these guys.
It's good to have a little bit, but they've got crack grenades, so that sort of covers them already.
Yeah.
The melter bombs for 10 points per model. If you're doing like a squad of 10 of these guys and 3 of them are choosers, 30 points is better spent elsewhere.
Yeah. The problem with this is like, and especially this is for like the 40k players coming in. Horus Heresy isn't like the current 40k, so you're not going to be putting these guys at strength 4 against a vehicle, because in most cases, unless you're getting to the rear armor, and I obviously know in this edition of Horus Heresy, for the first round of combat, you fight the facing that you're in touch contact with, and then you'll hit the rear. But that's only really going to help you against things like rhinos that have got an armor value of 10 at the arse. If you're charging something like a Land Raider, which is 14 all round, you're going to be hard pushed hurting this tank. So ideally, if you're throwing Dark Furies against armor, something has gone terribly wrong, and you're on your arse.
They do have that rending, which does assist them in killing those tanks.
They do, but it's not something. It's not amazing. It's not what you're gonna want.
These guys won't be blending Marines.
Yeah, you throw these guys into squads, and even like Terminator squads and stuff, you've got a good chance of coming out on top with absolutely shredding, purely because of the rending and the sheer amount of attacks that you're going to be throwing at them.
Well, each of the base Dark Furies, not even taking the choosers into consideration, because they obviously have +1 attack over a regular guy.
Yeah.
But on the charge, a regular Dark Fury is getting 5 attacks on the charge.
Yeah.
And if you've got a squad of 10 of these guys, that's a lot of lightning claw attacks to try and push through whatever you're wanting to kill.
But rules-wise, that's pretty much all they have in the Legion book. Now you've got the stuff for their
they've got. So unfortunately, much as I have said multiple times throughout this, is that the Estevan Loyalist Legions really got the short end of the stick whenever it came to like their unit selections. Now that has been sort of addressed in like some legacies and one of the like exemplary battle.
I think in one of the campaign books that in the future we're going to get a Shattered Legion army list that will essentially,
that or even just a bit of character love.
Yeah.
Anything.
Well, the Raven Guard did have characters. Now, wait a minute. They do have a character. About. They've got one in the Siege of Guthonia book.
They do not.
I thought he was in there.
No.
He's mentioned in the lore.
He is mentioned, but he does not have a role.
They don't have Crazy Rambo guy Oh, man.
Well, we're about to talk about Crazy Rambo guy.
I like Crazy
Um,
Rambo guy.
Obviously, he was in the original Raven Guard selection in first edition.
He
They
was.
removed him and put him into Legacy for this edition. So Moritat Prime Katie's next.
For now. He is awesome.
Such a cool guy. I think there's a number of novels which sort of follow his exploits. Is
Is
there
it?
any novels that cover him?
No.
No.
You're thinking of the Black Shield guy that's from the World Eaters.
So he is 165 points.
Yeah.
He is movement 8 of a Marine, weapon skill 5, ballistic skill 6, strength and toughness 4, 3 wounds, initiative 5, 3 attacks, leadership 9, 3 upsave. Okay, so he's a character. He has the light special rule, which means that he does stuff with cover.
Yeah.
And he's unique because he's a named character. His war gear comes with 2 fulcrum hand cannons, power armor, or fractor field, melta bombs, and shroud bomb. His special rules, there's a lot of them. So he's a Raven Guard. He's an independent character. Ill-omened, the Blood Crow, Relentless Stalker, Stubborn, Sudden Strike 1, Rampage 3, Shrouded 5 up, Move Through Cover, and Pathfinder.
I think I realised why they moved him to Legacy.
So they have also included a little bit of a caveat saying that he gains the Falcon special rule and no others from the Shadow and Fury.
Right.
So they have specifically given him the Falcon's rule, which I think is the Infiltrate.
No, that's yes, I think so.
We've just read over it.
I just literally just closed my book.
Let me just check.
We're amazingly professional
quickly.
here at Northern Heresy. Right,
He
let's 7 up.
So he gets Falcons, which is the reroll.
Yeah, he gets the chargy one.
He gets the chargy one. So he's different because even though he's infantry and gets all the things from Talons, he gets Falcons instead. So his guns, the Fulcrum hand cannons, they're described as auto weapons for special rules that affect them. They possess multiple profiles, and when making a shooting attack, you must select either pinpoint strike or empty the chambers and make all attacks with both of them. So this guy is pretty much like a super Moritat, from like a regular Moritat perspective.
Yeah.
So his hand cannons have 3 profiles. So pinpoint strike is 24-inch range, strength 6, AP 2, pistol 1, brutal 2, concussive 1, pinning, and sniper. That is mad. That is absolutely mad. Empty the chambers. Range is 12, so half the range of the first version. Strength 6, AP 4, pistol 6, concussive 1, and pinning. So that means that you're firing either 2 shots with the brutal 2 or 12 shots with the empty the chambers. And he can also use them in close combat. And he's classified as Strength 6, AP 2, Brutal 2, Precision Strikes 4 up, and Specialist Weapons. Okay. That's a lot to digest, I know, because it's one gun which does multiple things.
Yeah.
Shooting, I think he's great. Those sniper brutal 2 shots at AP 2, Strength 6, that's mad. Absolutely mad. Ill-omened means that he can't be taken as a compulsory HQ choice, only as a non-compulsory HQ. He may never be the army's warlord, and may not join other units except Seekers or Mordathan. The Blood Crow, when he makes attacks as part of a shooting attack, the range of any weapons is not restricted or affected by... So he doesn't care about night fighting. He doesn't care about shroud bombs or any other special rules. He just shoots you. He never suffers the penalty for fighting in the dark. always rolls to hit using his full ballistic skill, including snapshots. And also may make shrouded rolls to negate wounds inflicted by their attacks. Wow.
He is nuts. Absolutely bonkers.
And then his last role, Relentless Stalker, when deploying him onto the battlefield, you may place him in any position on the battlefield as long as he's within area terrain, or at least 9 inches away from the enemy. So he's a little bit like, what is it, the Lictor from 40K Tyranids?
Yeah.
He just hides out and pops out whenever he feels like.
Because he's John J. Rambo.
Yeah.
He really is. I think he's really cool. His artwork was really cool as well. But he's mental. So
yeah, I mean, for he's a gun. He's a really big gun. Just to sort of throw into his, he's just cool. He's one of the more sort of character filled units I think Raven Guard lost. But yeah, it's a mad amount of rules for what he does.
Yeah.
But at the same time, he's a Moratat that doesn't like destroyers. He prefers sniper guys and seekers.
which is handy because Forge World sell a unit of Mordathan strike squads, and they basically come with their big sniper rifles.
Yeah. So that is Mr. Moratat Prime. I think his whole story is that nobody knew how to take him, but Korax put him to work.
He was a war criminal during their he was pretty bad on Deliverance when they fought to free the planet, and when obviously the Imperium turned up, I think he was a prisoner, and they were all wanting to kill him because he's a fucking lunatic, and Korax was like, nah, let's make him a Marine. What's the worst that could happen? And they made him a Marine, and he was just like literally a one-man weapon. Just send him in and let him just go to work. He literally is the 40k version of Rambo in power armor. I know we have Sly Mambo, but this is the Heresy version. He's so cool, but they haven't really given much love, to be fair.
No, but you can kind of see the way that the characters that do get love are never characters that just have pistols.
Yeah, but he's just got the rules for rules. I did get excited when I read that the Raven Guard are obviously present during the Siege of Corthia, and when his name was mentioned in the little bit of blurb, I was like, "Oh my god, he's back! He's out of Legends. No.
So
sad times.
Cool. Now this second guy, I don't think I've ever heard of, but he's here. So 140 points gets you Strike Captain Alvarax Ball. Now, I've never heard of this guy before. He has the stats of a Centurion with an extra wound. He's a character, he's unique, he's a Raven Guard, Master of the Legion, independent character, and has his very own special warlord trait.
Alright, which is?
He has a bolt pistol, something called Toletus, artificer armor, frag crack grenades, and a nightfall pattern Stratovox, whatever that is. So he strangely can take a dedicated transport. He can take either a drop pod or a Storm Eagle as a dedicated transport for himself.
Oh, I remember that one. Yeah, I remember this one.
So his warlord trait is coordinated planet strike. As long as he's not been removed as a casualty, you may re-roll your reserve rolls for any deep strike assaults that he is part of. In addition, you may make an additional reaction in the movement phase. Okay. His weapon is described as a power weapon. Its strength of user, AP3, melee, mastercrafted, breaching 5-up.
Hmm.
So it's a little bit better than a regular power sword. But it's breaching instead of rending.
Yeah.
And then his Stratovox. So while he's present on the battlefield and not embarked on a vehicle or building, you may reduce the distance of any scalar roll made, whether as part of a weapon attack or deployment, by 5.
Do you say this guy's called Alvarex?
Yes.
So yeah, he has the really cool art. He had the really cool artwork with his sort of like shaved mohawk, and then he had like his mouth open. Basically, he has the title Master of Descent. He's there. He was like the Legion's overseer for like Planet Strike operations. Basically, he was the guy that planned all of their initial drops and craziness.
I'm going to make a decision on this guy and say that he is not worth it.
Not for what he is, no. But I could imagine him being quite tasty in the.
That doesn't have an invulnerable save.
He doesn't have a reflector field.
No, he has artificial armor. But then at the same time, I mean, Katie's next up above him has a refractor field, but he has power armor, which is a weird one.
But I think this guy would actually kind of work in the decapitation strike.
Probably.
Thing, because he'd be quite cheap.
I think the hidden hand is a better warlord trait than what this guy gives.
Yeah, but I don't know. He could kind of work. It's very fluffy.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going towards a theme, this guy is probably on your theme.
Yeah.
But I don't see a real point. I think that he is a little bit lackluster. But that's all from Legacy. So we've only got 2 units left to go over.
Yeah.
Which is the Inducti for the Raven Guard, which I think are really, really good. So we'll do them because the deliverers are a little bit harder to get hold of, just because they're on my screen. But the book is in front of me. So Raven Guard follow the Inducti template. They use tactical squads. All models in the unit gain Inducti. Special rules: you lose Heart of the Legion, but gain Unchained Conviction. So these guys are attack squad. There's no real changes to them. It's just what they are.
Yeah.
So Unchained Conviction is what you're taking these guys for. So a unit entirely composed of models with this special rule, whose controlling player fails a pinning check, they aren't pinned. Instead, must immediately move 7 inches directly away from the models that were trying to pin them.
Mm-hmm.
Moving each model in the unit directly away by shortest available path, as you normally would. If this would bring a unit into contact with the edge of the battlefield, don't move any further. Once all models in the unit have been moved, there are no further effects, and the unit is not pinned. If the unit is required to make a move during a charge, then the charge automatically fails and the unit is displaced from the position that they've occupied with.
Yeah.
So, really, really cool. The fact that if people try to pin you, you just fall back and they're fine is really strong.
Yeah.
Really strong. And it ties in with that Legion advanced reaction where you're able to sort of like dip and dive and you don't have to deal with problems because you're just running away from them. I really like the Inducti. I think the Raven Guard can make a lot of use out of them. But again, remember, it's one of those support units, so it's not your compulsory units, it's the extras that you put into your army. But the likes of a couple of those squads and keep your compulsory stuff as like your assault squads. These guys can see a lot of work for you instead of regular attacks.
Yeah.
Because they still get the infiltrate like all the rest of your army. They get the Shrouded 6-up.
Are they the spoilers or the tactical squads?
They're tacticals.
Interesting.
I think that there's a good reason to take these guys instead of regular tax squads.
Yeah.
Keep your compulsories as like two, let's say 15-man assault squads. Two of these 10-man squads just sort of infiltrating about, and if people try to pin them in place, they're going to fall back and keep shooting you.
Yeah.
Really good. Obviously, they come with the same problems as all other inducti. You can't have 2-up armor. Can't have characters or apothecaries or tech marines join them. They're standalone little things, which I think Raven Guard are kind of happy with anyway.
Yeah, I'm still. I'm gonna have to get the Siege of California book, but I'm still not 100% sold on these inducti.
And I get that. And each legion's gonna feel very different about their own inducti, right?
Yeah.
Now at this point we've discussed the Raven Guard, the Space Wolves, and the Salamanders ones, and all three do very different jobs.
They do.
And I like that they're like it's minor changes to what they are, but it gives them a little bit of personality.
Yeah.
So that's the inducti in a nutshell. Obviously we'll do a deep dive as part of the Siege of Cathonia book.
Yes, we will.
By that point, we probably don't need to talk a lot about the inducti because we're wrapping it into each legion. But it's good to go over. It's like the best and worst showings. But the last unit that we have is a 0-1 choice for the Raven Guard in the elite section. And these are the Deliverers. So the Deliverers are a 275-point unit for 5. They are Weapon Skill 5, BS, Strength, Toughness 4, 2 wounds each, Initiative 4. They're the stats of your Elite Legion Terminators.
Right.
They have 1 Chieftain, 4 Deliverers. They all come with combi bolters, power weapons of any type, cataphracti armor, improvisers, and teleportation transponder.
Okay.
They are Raven Guard, stubborn. They have implacable advance, and they have Corax's shame. So these guys are they're the Terminator unit that never got added to the main book.
Yeah.
They can have an additional 10 guys, so these are one of the few Terminator units you can bump up to 15 strong if you wanted to.
That's interesting.
They're 40 points a guy. Every 5 models can have a heavy flamer, Reaper autocannon, or a multi-melta.
Right.
Any model can change their combi bolter out for a combi weapon for 7 points, weirdly. And any model in the unit may exchange their combi bolter and power weapon for a pair of Raven Talons for 10 points each.
Okay.
Their Corax's shame. So this is the interesting thing, because these guys are like the Raven Guard that worked with the Sons of Horus before Corax was found.
Right.
And they change depending on whether... Well, I'll just read through the rule and then you can sort of see. So if they're selected as part of a loyalist army, they count as being 1 toughness higher for determining instant death.
Very nice.
Doesn't affect the wounds rule, but it means that you're pretty much you're battle hardened 1, right?
Yeah, basically.
If you take them in a traitor army, they get hatred Corvus Corax. If Corax is part of the same army as a unit of these guys, then they can't deploy within Corvus Corax of 18 inches, including whenever they enter play from reserve. And Corax can never join them because he hates them. So these are the guys that worked really closely with Horus and the Justarin whenever they were going about as part of the Great Crusade. And I think the whole thing was that Corax hated them because they took on like almost like a terrible glee about the violence that they inflicted, and Korax didn't like that.
Yeah.
So normally he sent these guys off to like it was part of the whole thing is like I don't like you guys, go off and do your own thing. Uh, I these guys are pretty strong, to be honest.
Yeah,
I
the
mean,
Terminators, aren't
the, they're Cataphractii Terminators. They've got that 2-up, 4-up invuln. You can give them all Ravens talents for really cheap.
they? Jesus.
And you know they're one of the few Terminator units that can take multi-meltas.
Hmm.
I
It's
think the only other ones that do are just Aaron.
Terminators in a Raven Guard army is very strange.
Yeah, but you know what? I think it can work.
Well, yeah, with those rules, yeah, just don't take Korax.
Or you know, just keep Korax away from him with his Dark Furies, and you've got a unit of Deliverers on the other side of the board doing their own thing.
Hmm. Very cool.
Yeah, they're stubborn, which is always a nice bonus for elite Terminators. But yeah, I think they're really solid. I played against these guys in a Loyalist force, and yeah, they blend.
Well, Terminators generally do, but you give them like special lightning claws, and then they're definitely going to ramp that up.
These guys will do the same job for you that your Dark Furies do, but instead of being as outwardly aggressive as the Dark Furies are because of their speed,
Yeah.
these guys are like that. They're like the anvil that you hit them with. Is like you want them to have nowhere to run except for where the deliverers are.
Yeah.
And you have another unit from the other side pressuring them to be close to those things.
Hmm.
Obviously, you can put them in a Spartan. Everybody has one.
Everyone wants 3. Spartan meta's a thing.
No, Rick,
It is. It's going to be a thing.
you're going to do that and spend 1,200 points on 3 Spartans
Yep.
before
And
anything
I'm going to be like a pig in shit, and it's going to look so good, and I'll smile, and it'll be amazing, and you'll all go, you know what, Rick? 3
All right.
Spartans is going to be good.
Sure. But that is the end of the Raven Guard. What do you think?
I've always liked the Raven Guard. They're a cool legion. They've got a reasonably I think the whole legion trait can just be simplified so much easier.
Yeah.
Their reaction is really good. They've got some solid warlord traits, some pretty interesting and thematic rites of war. Korax is a solid Primarch. Dark Furies are absolutely bonkers, and yeah,
I would say that the Dark Furies aren't too bonkers. They're great.
They're bonkers when you throw Korax in with them.
You're paying those points to have that like really stabby elite unit, but you're not paying all that much in the real big scheme of things.
No,
Like if you think how many people took like Death Stars and stuff in first edition with like a Primarch and their unit and stuff, these guys are still. It's like Dark Furies are still pretty cheap compared to a lot of Terminator units now.
Yeah, they're 220, 275 points, something like that, for basically for a 10-man squad. Yeah, before you add a couple of upgrades onto that. So
yeah, I mean they are really cost efficient for what they're doing.
Yeah,
and I think that they are the threat that an awful lot of people see whenever Raven Guard are.
If you're wanting a jump infantry, drop pod shenanigans army, then the Raven Guard is definitely up there. Out of the 2 legions for the Loyalist side that have that preference for Assault Marines, Raven Guard and the Blood Angels, I prefer the Raven Guard units over the Blood Angel units.
Especially with Decapitation Strike and getting that shrouded whenever you drop. Yes.
Yeah. I if I was going to do an Assault Marine army, heavy army, then I would rather do Raven Guard over Blood Angels, purely because the Blood Angel units are either like a destroyer unit or a
The Dawn Guard cohort
which
or
are
whatever.
they're meant to be like Sanguinary Guard, but they're not. Just give us Sanguinary Guard. So yeah, I think that one as well, the Dark Fury models from Forge World are probably
Beautiful.
one of the best looking units out of the entire Heresy range. They are
I agree.
gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous.
Those chest plates as well,
Yeah,
super unique compared to so many others.
yeah,
With like the pectoral, but they're armored plates,
yeah,
as opposed to like the Blood Angels who like to mold their stuff. And
yeah. It's like bolted
yeah,
on.
really cool.
They really are cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, you've got a
And
lot of cool
their
stuff.
jump packs are unique, and they all have like little wings on them and stuff.
Yeah, they're like
They're just
little. They're mini
they're just cool.
Coraxes. They're so
Yeah.
cool.
And
So
Korax, I think, is one of the few Legion Primarchs which is going with the likes of a jump infantry unit, or they're not just going with their Terminator blokes,
well, obviously
because
Sanguinius goes with Assault Marines because he has
yeah,
wings.
because
But
it's like Sanguinius, Korax, and Kurs do the same sort of thing, where they'll choose a jump unit over a Terminator unit to join, ideally.
yeah,
Which is fine. I mean, there's like Kurs whenever we get to the Night Lords, and that's hopefully going to be a little while away because it gives me a headache every time I think about it. I mean, he loves going with his Night Raptors.
he does. And then making the
You would never see him dead hanging around with the Terminators of the field.
no, no. You could stick him with a Terror Squad.
You could, but he's faster than that, and I think it's a disservice. But that's just me.
He is very fast, stupidly fast. But
But
yeah,
yeah,
they're Raven Guard. I really like them. They're very cool. And
their Legion,
I know our
their
local.
Legion Court is the only thing that lets him down, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's too. It's they've.
And
I can see what they've tried to do with it, and I think the easiest thing would have been is just give the Legion infiltrate, just basically saying you get infiltrate if you are not a Terminator or jump infantry or a vehicle of any kind.
there's definitely a better way that they could have
Yeah,
worded it.
and then basically just said vehicle, and the army gets shrouded 6+,
Yeah,
and it can be improved with rights of war and other additional rules, but to a maximum of 5+, which would have been fine. Korax already
I
has
would
his 4+ anyway,
I
and
would
that
have
would
been
have been
absolutely fine if they had capped it at 4+, because that makes it a unique thing. It
yeah,
makes it slightly better. Obviously, if you ignore night fighting and you have like ignore cover,
yeah,
you ignore shrouded anyway.
yeah.
So I don't think that it's actually that much of a terrible thing.
I think they've tried to make it unique, and
Now,
they've kind of over bloated it, and it could be simplified so much easier.
speaking of unique things, am I right in saying first edition they used to have a special Storm Eagle?
They did, yeah.
That doesn't seem to be present anymore, which I think is a bit weird.
No, 'cause that character that you had from the Master of Descent, that was what he
Does he,
basically, yeah,
does he pretty much do that?
yeah.
All right, okay.
You basically took him and you put him in that Storm Raven as a dedicated transport, and you filled it with troops, and it was stupid. I think it had something like a Shroud 3 or something like that. It was
Yeah.
bonkers that it could just or it had stealth, and you could basically
Okay.
just scoop across the board without anyone really targeting you, and it was pretty nuts. But yeah, it's unfortunately it's gone.
Yeah.
Not even in the legacy document.
Which I don't think is that much of a problem considering where Flyers are at the minute. But at the same time, it's not good to lose like that extra unique option.
Yeah,
But yeah, I really like the units for Raven Guard. The trait I think is the only thing that lets them down. Their advanced reaction is pretty cool, even though it's not aggressive. it's more defensive in nature.
Yeah.
But it's decent. You can do a lot of work with Raven Guard. And yeah, you'll typically find yourself leaning towards like that sniper / quick assault unit sort of idea.
Yeah, if you're wanting a
the Raven
mechanized,
Guard,
yeah,
the Raven Guard love sniper rifles and they love jump packs and claws.
yeah, like playing Raven Guard and seeing them as a mechanized infantry type army with armored support is not really a thing for them. Now you can do it. It's like every legion can play it any way you want them to play, but their rules will and their special units will kind of nudge you into a certain direction. So, but if you do see a Raven Guard player literally playing mechanized infantry supported by predators and bigger tanks, then fair play to them. Fair play to them.
Yeah. I mean, they're still going to be predators, and they're still going to be a threat like every other Marine army.
Yeah.
Just because they're not falling into like their little paradigm doesn't mean you're going to have an easy time of killing them.
Yeah.
Because they're still Marines at the end of the day.
Yeah, but we've got one more loyalist Estevan Legion to do, which is obviously the Iron Hands. So that will be coming very soon, and we're going to be talking about a couple of other subjects as well. So, but yeah. Right, well, I think we're coming up to 2 hours, dude. 2 hours.
Hi.
It's not too bad. It's not too bad. So yeah, we're going to call it here, and so as usual, thank you very much to all the support and everything else. It's going really well, and we will continue to pump out the content. So yeah, and any other words for you, Kyle?
Any comments? Please leave them for us. The only way that if you have different experiences with Raven Guard, we'd love to hear from them.
Yeah, and drop your questions as well. Like get some.
We're taking this from a perspective now that we've talked about the salamanders and the space wolves. We're going on to things that we don't play, and it's our perspective more than anything else.
Yeah.
I mean, I've played a few games, and I've played a few games against Raven Guard, but it's hard to get games with Raven Guard because there's just that few people playing them. Same for the Salamanders and same for a few other legions, but I think that they're really cool. They're one of the heroes of the setting, more so than I think that the Space Wolves are. They're just cool. They're the Spec Ops guys.
They are the Spec Ops guys, and like Alpha Legion just don't like that because they think they're Spec Ops and they're not.
They're jealous.
They are jealous. So again, if you've got questions, and they don't have to be about anything that we're talking about that episode. If it's anything that you want to ask, then feel free to drop it in the comment section, and when we have them, we will endeavour to answer them in the podcast after we've got them. So if you've got anything, drop it in the comments of this one or in any of the other podcasts, and we'll go through them, and then I'll have a little system myself to know that if we've answered them or not, because we'll give it a little thumbs up.
Yeah.
But other than that, we're going to call it there. So thank you very much, and we will see you in the next one. Goodbye.
Bye, everybody.